3, 2, 1. We're live! This is the place where fun meets chaos, and you're officially part of the madness. So smash that like button, tell your friends, and let's turn this feed into the wildest ride on the internet. Ready? Let's do this!
Yes, boys, we're live.
Hey, welcome to the show, guys. This is our first blind talk, and we have a superstar. But before we get into it, I've got two guests with me. Me and myself. Yeah, hi, I'm Blind Freedom. Yeah, Mr. Unseen.
Hello, everyone. Unseen over here.
And Mr. Unheard. Hello, everybody.
And finally, I'm not going to introduce our guest. I think we will let our friend Betty introduce our guest, because she'll get awfully upset otherwise.
Ladies and gentlemen, darlings of the internet, welcome to Blind Talk, the show where I, Betty, bring you brilliance, sass, and the occasional reality check. Now, usually, I'm stuck wrangling Blind Freedom and Unseen. And let's be honest, that's like trying to teach goldfish how to juggle. But tonight, oh tonight, I've got a treat for you. Our guest is none other than Chris Ross, the UK's strongest fully blind chess player. A man who can outthink computers, outlast opponents, and probably checkmate me before I've even finished this sentence. So buckle up. Polish your pawns and get ready for stories of grit, glory, and just a dash of humiliation, because you know I'll ask the cheeky questions too. Ladies and gentlemen, darlings of the internet, welcome to Blind Talk, the show where I, Betty, bring you brilliance, sass, and the occasional reality check. Now, usually, I'm stuck wrangling Blind Freedom and Unseen. And let's be honest, that's like trying to teach goldfish how to juggle. But tonight, oh tonight, I've got a treat for you. Our guest is none other than Chris Ross, the UK's strongest fully blind chess player. A man who can outthink computers, outlast opponents, and probably checkmate me before I've even finished this sentence. So buckle up, polish your pawns, and get ready for stories of grit, glory, and just a dash of humiliation, because you know I'll ask the cheeky questions too.
For some reason, Betty wanted us to speak twice, eh? Welcome, Chris Ross.
Hello. How are we all doing?
Great. Blind Freedom?
Yeah, put on the first question.
Okay, we'll go straight into it.
All right, Chris darling, take us back. What was childhood really like for you? And when did you first realize blindness wasn't just a detail, but something that would shape your whole journey?
Okay, so I grew up in the very northeast of England in the 1980s, and at the time it was quite a challenging time within England, especially politically. A lot of the coal mines were closed down by Margaret Thatcher's government at the time, and the northeast relied very much on industry. So the area became very poverty-stricken. It was very run down, and yeah, socioeconomically it was quite low. It was quite a depressing time. So I grew up in that type of environment.
And what about your blindness? Were you blind from birth, Chris,
No.
or did that materialize later on in life?
So I had sight difficulties when I was born, but I was partially sighted for a number of years. Again, due to complications of incorrect diagnosis, incorrect medicines, because as I said at the time, it was very poverty stricken. We didn't receive the technology medicine that we receive nowadays. So I didn't get the correct care, but that was, that was the times. So I suffered from quite a few eye illnesses, and gradually my sight diminished, and I finally lost my total sight just after my 8th birthday. So
Wow.
yeah.
So are you saying, Chris, that if certain cares were taken properly and you had the right medication, then maybe it might have not got to that stage, or would it have got to that stage eventually anyway?
It probably would have got there eventually.
It would have given you more time.
Yeah, but it would have given me more time if the medication, if the diagnosis was best at the time. You know, I'm not diminishing it, but it was the 1980s. You know, it didn't have the facilities that you have now.
Correct.
That, you know, for me, I consider myself extremely lucky in that I had 8 years of being able to see reasonably well. You know, I can see colour. You know, I can imagine, you know, space. My spatial awareness is exceptionally good. So what I exist now is so I see internally, what they call a memory eye. So in my daily life, I walk around and I envisage what my personal perception of the world is.
Yeah. And that obviously comes from the fact that you could see at that younger age, and you got that.
Yes.
So, I presume you went to a normal primary school. Your education was mainstream. Is that correct?
Yes. So I went to just a normal primary school. Obviously, towards the end of my primary school, that is when I started losing my sight. And when I went to secondary school, the local government really tried to force me to go to a residential school within England, especially for the visually impaired. My mother, who is a very robust northern person, was very adamant that that wasn't going to happen and that I would go to a normal mainstream school. And I had to prove academically when I first went into secondary school that I was able, you know, to cope with the work that was in the school. And again, because of the area I was in, academically, it wasn't very high. So I was able, and I teamed up with some classmates and one in particular, and we urged each other on throughout our school life. And yeah,
Fantastic.
Because of my natural ability, I was able to succeed.
So Chris, in terms of growing up with this visual impairment, obviously you struggled quite a bit. What would you say sort of helped you to carry on with your day-to-day life?
I think it was just the motivation to get a better life, and I realized even at a young age that education would be the pathway to enable me to break away from that area. So I was the first generation to go to university. I realized that if I could get decent qualifications, I could get away, I could move away, get into, get a degree. And at the time, throughout school, I had a particular talent for languages. And again, I realized that if I developed my language skills, that would facilitate me to go abroad and see the wider world. And that was my key, really.
So being 8, right? You could see quite well to go to a normal primary school, and then all of a sudden this eyesight starts going. Okay, how did you feel? Did you, how within yourself? How did you feel internally that now your life is transforming from what you call the sighted world to the blind world? I mean, how did you personally feel, and how was your well-being during that transition?
It wasn't too bad. I've always been a very strong character, and chess is the perfect example of that. So throughout the 1980s, I used to watch a snooker player called Steve Davis, who was world champion at snooker. And I used to watch him play snooker on the television, and I loved his style and his just way of playing, his long-term positional and tactical ability. And you know, I had a small snooker table as a child, and you know, I used to knock around, and I wasn't very good. But when I lost my sight, I asked myself then, okay, I can't be a snooker player in my future life, which I probably would have gone for, you know, if I'd been sighted. What can I change that ability to? And I knew at the time Steve Davis was a reasonably good chess player, so there were transferable skills from obviously snooker to chess. My brother had taught me the moves of chess, and then I just walked into a chess club and said, look, I want to have a go at this. And it's that stubbornness within me that once I set my sights on a goal, that 9 times out of 10 I achieve it.
Yeah. So okay, Betty, go on. What's your next question, Betty, for our guest?
So just before we go into there, so there's a few shout outs. I guess Rosie's saying hi. That's your man, Rosie. Yes, and she's saying hi, Gerald. There was a massive spider in my house today. So Gerald, that's the comments directed towards you. Any comments?
Well, Rosie knows me from playing cricket with Chris, and there was a spider in the changing room when she was there with Chris, and she came out screaming.
Oh, hi, Rosie. Shout out to Rosie. She always comes along to all the cricket matches, supporting her man. Shout out to Rosie, ladies and gentlemen.
Just can I ask one more question, Chris, just before we move on to the next question from Betty? So with regards to obviously you using your sight, in terms of your family around you and your friends, how did they manage to sort of deal with that? Obviously, it affects you, but it affects others around. And how did you get around for you to explain to them, you know, it's not to worry and stuff like that?
It wasn't too bad. So my mother is also blind, and she lost her sight when she was 18. So she also knows the life of that, and in some ways that's why when I was born, it wasn't hereditary, but I developed eye conditions, you know, because of that. But because it was in the northeast, and life was rough and ready, she basically chucked me out on the street and says, "You got to live, you got to adapt," and that was the life of the 1980s in that area. It was fight and survive or go under, and that built up your resistance in that, and in some ways I was quite lucky that I was able to survive that and just, you know, fight through it. There were obviously many lows, and at the time, you know, out on the streets, you were out with your mates, and you just had to find ways to get around things, and you know, that's just how you had to survive.
Yeah, and Rosie says that you definitely get your resilience from your mother, and then we have a few comments from Sajad and Danielle, and Bilal, but I'll come to them in a later section because they're a bit related to one of the sections we have going forward. But I guess it's over to Betty for the next question.
Before chess came along and claimed you, was there another passion? Another timber? Or were you always secretly plotting checkmates before breakfast?
As I said, it was languages. Actually, throughout my schooling, I was chucked into learning French initially. I succeeded in that, and then was elevated up into learning German. Once I'd learned German, got to learn that again because I excelled at that. I got to choose Latin, and at the time, the school was promoting get pen friends. So I was able to get contacts within different countries. And then when I went to sixth form college, I had the opportunity to go on exchanges. And I travelled then to Germany and got to know quite a lot of people. And my exchange partner, to this day, is a very close friend of mine. We've known each other now for over 30 years. And, for example, I was his best man about 10 years ago. And it's just developing those relationships and then seeing what other cultures have to offer, what they experience, and it's just that realization that there's a greater outer world out there, and that for me was always a passion to learn that and embrace that diversity.
Have you traveled around quite to many different countries or around the world?
Yeah. Yeah. So I did that obviously as part of my language study, and then chess embraced that as well. So I was able to combine both of them. So, throughout my 20s and 30s, I always played at least one or two tournaments internationally. And because I played the charity for visually impaired players in England is called the Braille Chess Association. I was very fortunate to represent England many times for that organisation. So between 1998 and I think last time was 2019. So again, nearly a 30-year span, or just over 20-year span. I played right across Europe, across into Asia, and I got to travel around the world.
So Chris, with regards to you traveling the world, how did you find people in different countries accepting visually impaired people?
I would say in most places was fine, and again, there was two areas. So I traveled personally. So one of my things was every New Year I used to go to a different country to see how they celebrated it and see the culture. And then there was the chess side of it when obviously I went to play chess. The chess tournaments were a mixture. Some of them were specifically for the visually impaired, and obviously those tournaments were completely catered for blind people. But a lot of the time I played international tournaments where there was only other sighted players, and I think that got me, and it got blind chess actually onto the scene. And when I played in these events, and I've played in tournaments with grandmasters, so some real good players, and I've had some notable successes. And when you go up, at the end in the tournament award ceremonies, and people see you, and then the local newspapers start writing about you, it just spreads that word, and people sit up and go, oh, obviously blind people can do this, and I think that's always been a good promotion, that as long as you can demonstrate to these people that they will admire it, and that they will start looking up and start accepting it. And again, within England, because in the 1990s and 2000s, I was playing what we call here in England as the Grand Prix circuit. So the Grand Prix circuit there's a chess tournament somewhere in the country every single weekend. And I used to travel around to literally all these different places and play these tournaments. And because where I've lived for work, I've played in different leagues as well. It's elevated the whole aspect of blind chess really up there, and because of my achievements. I've been I say modestly, I've been somewhat of a role model for that, and that's allowed people to accept the condition quite well, and they've embraced it, especially in the chess world.
So So we have a hi from James, so hi from you as well, James, and Oscar. Thank you very much for joining as well. And I guess we'll move over to the next question before we move over to the chess section.
Growing up can be a battlefield at the best of times. What were your biggest hurdles? And how on earth did you leap over them without tripping?
Okay. Physically, there were a lot of hurdles, and obviously, especially when my sight started to deteriorate, I had numerous accidents, you know, walking into things. I forget how many times I walked into glass doors, or, you know, turned around and suddenly walked into objects that were quite close to me. And they're the battle scars that you just got to get over. And it's overpowering that fear of being hurt. You know, that you can't sit around and just sit at home and worry of, if I go out I get hurt, how will I cope? You've just got to grin and bear it. And I think that's physically and mentally. You know, if you're able to do that throughout your life, you're able to overcome challenges with more success. And if you could try and take the positives out of the knocks that you have, then you can ride it a lot better. So that I would say, yeah, there were hurdles at school, especially. There were a lot of teachers who were very, I want to say, skeptical, you know, that I could achieve. That, you know, and you had to go out to prove them wrong. And that's been all the way through my career. Even when I graduated from university and I wasn't quite clear what to do in my professional life, I went to a teacher training course leader and asked him whether, you know, I could become a teacher. And he completely scoffed at the idea and says I would never cope. And because of that, because of my belligerence, I did the course and qualified and was a successful teacher.
Your thing as a teacher, we're going to come on to that in a bit. So we're going to come on to another question on that. Okay, can we move on to the next question, Betty, please?
Do you remember that very first tournament game? The nerves, the thrill, or was it just, oh look, another victim? Paint us the picture.
So my first, what we call over the board, which means in-person tournament, was in Leeds. And I didn't know the person, and I wasn't really au fait with what we call the practice of how to do it. And I know at one point, it wasn't maliciously, but I started messing around with the clock that you had to use, because there was a time when you played so many moves and then you got extra time, and I went to change the clock to add a different time, and my opponent absolutely went ballistic with me. It's why you're doing that. You need to get the tournament official to do it. And I can remember, you know, when you just quake and go, oh no, what have I done wrong? What have I done wrong? And it was, yeah, that was a real learning curve for me. But
how old were you when you first played that first tournament, Chris?
It was in '93, so I must have been just over 14. I think I was my 15th birthday.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was quite a baptism of fire to go into that. But again, I used that as a learning curve. You know, I don't get nerved by being, I want to say, shouted at or pointed at for something doing wrong. I'll take it on board and I'll go, okay, I'll do it better next time.
So Chris,
did you win that first game or did you lose, Chris?
Yeah.
I think I did win it. I did win the tournament. I didn't win the tournament outright. I came joint first.
Brilliant. Well done. Well done.
Oh.
For the first tournament, that's excellent.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Chris, you mentioned that you had played some grandmasters. Can you mention something that's most, like somebody that we might know, and a great game that you'll always remember for the rest of your life?
Sadly, I've never beat a grandmaster, which is really sad. But obviously, I'm not at that level. I don't think you'd necessarily know any of them. Some of my, I lost to a grandmaster called Vladimir Epichin in Germany in 2005, and he was ranked in the top 50 in the world at the time. I have played a world champion before, but he was a world champion back in the 1960s, a chap called David Bronstein, and I played him in a simultaneous in Middlesbrough, actually, and drew. But that wasn't obviously a game that was rated or in a tournament. My biggest, so the level below Grandmaster is called International Master, and I've had quite a lot of victories against International Masters. I don't think you would know any of them. My biggest scalp was an Austrian International Master in 2008 when I played in a town called Salzburg, and that created a lot of hoo-ha within the tournament.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, Betty, what's the next question?
Now this one's juicy. Tell us about a time when being blind at the board actually gave you an advantage. Come on. We know it's happened.
Okay. So one thing I particularly remember, and this caused a great deal of hilarity at the time. I was in a tournament in the Czech Republic in a place called Pardubice, and I travelled with an English friend, and we were doing reasonably okay in the tournament. And I think it was about round 6 or 7. I think it was 7, round 7 out of 9, and I was we call it drawn, which means matched against a young lady from Slovenia who was, I think, early 20s. I think she was 21, 22, who was really attractive, was playing really well, was dressed really stylishly, and was obviously getting a lot of attention from a lot of the other players in the tournament. And I was playing this lady, and obviously I had no idea what she looked like. I had no idea what effect she was having on players. And we had quite an exciting game, and it was getting really exciting towards the end. And then suddenly I was aware that literally there was about 100 people stood around the board, just gawking at what's going on, the exciting game, this really attractive woman, playing somebody like me, and I'm completely oblivious to it all. I just no idea, and I'm just playing the board. And then there was this, when the game finished, there was this collective gasp, and the game was drawn, and all these people just descended on us and went, whoa, and that's where the advantage was, that obviously other opponents were able to see what she was like, and would have been intimidated, by all these people looking around and watching. But,
Thank God for small mercies, Rosie.
just on top of that, there's a comment, I guess, related to the chessboard from someone in the comments, Sajjad Hussain. So he's asked, how do you know where all the chess pieces are on the board? And then the second part of that question is, do you have a virtual board in your head?
Okay, so that's a slightly complicated question. So I actually have a chessboard here. I don't know if it's able to see it on the camera or not.
Yeah, we can see it.
We can see it, yeah.
Yeah. So we call it okay, you guys would call it the white and black squares. We call them the light and dark squares. That's to distinguish between the white and black pieces. So the dark squares on this chessboard are slightly raised. So light squares are lower, dark squares are higher. And then between the white pieces and the black pieces, they're exactly the same, but the black pieces have slight nails in the top of them. So you can actually feel the difference. So that's what we call an adaptive chessboard.
Is it also magnetized, the base, Chris? Because can you not like accidentally try to move in your hands around, knock it over, or
no, because the pieces have pegs on the bottom of them, and they slide into holes.
Beautiful.
So, now, when you buy a completely new chessboard, it's obviously they're pretty stiff. So if I tipped this board upside down, technically they shouldn't fall out of the holes, but because this chessboard is quite hot, they will fall out.
So it loosens up over time, basically.
They will loosen up time, and because the wood, because it's made out of wood,
wears.
The different temperatures, because this board has literally been to like India and China and lived in, those temperatures, the wood.
Wow.
Maybe we should think about auctioning that chessboard for charity. Sounds like a good idea.
So the other question, which is the virtual board, that's slightly more complicated. So as I said earlier on, I live in this world where I see internally. So what I can see the chessboard in my mind. And then I can see the actual pieces moving around. And what I particularly have, I'm not unique in this ability. A lot of really good chess players can do it. They can actually see different variations and different moves. And a lot of really good chess players can actually hold multiple games in their head simultaneously. So I can actually when I'm sat at the board, I'm calculating variations. I see in my mind the various pieces running around the board, and I can see what the future position will be in 10, 15 moves time.
That far ahead, you've got to think then, Chris. So 15 moves ahead.
Even more in some cases. My style of chess is what we call positional chess. So it's not about immediate combinations. I see the strategy. So I plan for 40, 50 moves ahead. I don't necessarily see the exact moves how to get there, but I see the ultimate strategy of, I want the rook on this square in 40 moves. I want the knight here in this area in 30 odd moves. I'm a long-term planner, and I can see in my mind where that piece wants to go, where a combination of pieces want to go, or like the pawn formation, how the pawns want to be in 30, 40 moves. I can see that. But a lot of really good chess players can. It's what you call blind.
It's part of playing chess, basically. It's the skill in, Okay. Wow, amazing.
So Chris, just a quick one on chessboards. This is basically for people that are visually impaired. Where is there any like specific type of chessboard that they need to buy, or is it just a normal chessboard where you said that some of the pieces have different things in them and stuff like that?
Yeah, where do you buy the adaptive chessboard from?
Okay, so there's a variety of companies that are out there. I've mentioned already, within England, the leading charity for visually and chess players is called the Braille Chess Association. So literally a quick search for that, you will find it easily. They've got a website, which is braillechess.org. You can obviously buy adaptive chess equipment from them, which includes the boards, the clocks, and other things as well. The adaptive chess sets tend to be smaller. So this one I've got here is about 8 inches by 18 inches. You can buy bigger. You don't have to have boards that with the pegs that slot into the holes. The common trend now is for magnetic boards. But that,
Okay.
Is that braillechess.org.uk?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So also in terms of people that just want to like play chess from, are there certain clubs? What would you recommend in terms of them which clubs to join, especially if they're visually impaired?
So there isn't, as far as I know, there isn't a club within local areas within England specifically for blind chess players, because there isn't that many within the country, to be fair. I think within the Braille Chess Association that they have less than 250 members. But because chess, it's so ingrained in the sighted world now that if any blind chess player walked into a chess club now and said to them, I'm interested in playing, they will be welcomed with open arms, and it's such a normality now, especially in the chess world. So as I said, the Braille Chess Association is for visually impaired within England, but the governing body for chess in England is called the English Chess Federation. So again, there's lots of advice on their websites, and there's a whole well-established infrastructure on how.
Just to make one thing clear, Chris, right? So, right, you as a blind person, you do play against normal sighted people. There's no distinction in that regard that you can play against any opponent. It's not like blind people play like we're blind cricket or blind baseball. It's not like that, is it?
No. So I would say 95% of the players, if not 96, 97% of the players I play are sighted opponents.
Sighted, yeah.
Especially in the local leagues. If you play within where you live, so here I play within the Sheffield South Yorkshire League, I'm only playing sighted opponents, unless there's another blind person who's actually in that league as well, and you just happen, to come across them. There are tournaments. The Braille Chess Association does tournaments twice a year, which is specifically focused, at other blind players. That's what we call over the board, which means in person. But you don't have to play chess just on person. You can play chess in a variety of ways. We call it either correspondence chess, which is played by email. You can play online on obviously the platforms now. That since COVID, that's become very popular.
Yeah.
There's just sorry boys. There's just two comments from myself before we move over to the next question from Betty. So Sajjad Hussain, based on the comments that you mentioned about the chessboard and how you visualize it. So there's a comment saying, so you can't see the matrix code then. I guess it's a bit of a funny comment. And then just on top of the question, sorry, you mentioned about governing body, right? So there's a question over here from Daniel Hussain saying, how do you get paid as a chess player? Is it based on prize money for each individual competition, or is there a governing body which may possibly pay you based on rankings? Or how does it exactly work? If you could just enlighten us.
Again, that's a very, very complicated question. There's a variety of ways you can do it. The main way is by prize money. The other way is that if you're a fairly good player and you get a decent ranking, if you become a master, then normally you get paid to play in tournaments. It's what you call appearance fees. Some teams will pay good players to come and play for them in the local leagues, because obviously, if they get the best players for them, they've got guaranteed wins normally, on the top boards. So yeah, there's a variety of ways.
Are you a master, Chris?
Yes.
Okay, so do you get paid well then, Chris?
I have been paid, yes.
Okay. Does it pay well, like compared to other sports and things like that, right? Is it comparable or is it quite minuscule compared?
No, it's quite minuscule.
Okay, okay.
We have two
But
questions. Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
prize money can be quite high. So if you play in a tournament internationally, first prizes could be looking into like the tens of thousands.
Wow.
Last two sections in the chess section before we wrap up. And if anyone else does have any other questions, please do ask away in the comments, and I'll get them read out. So next question from Betty.
People say chess is basically life in 64 squares. What's the single biggest lesson the game has hammered into you?
I would say versatility, adaptability, and we'll probably mention it later on, but I have written a book about believing in one's own journey, about starting off small, going through that learning curve, and taking baby steps to improve oneself and do reflection on the way, take the hard lessons as they come, live and accept it with humility, and use it as a springboard for the path of betterment, and that's a hard lesson to learn, because a lot of people get bogged down in feeling low about what's happened and why it's happened.
Two questions, Chris. So very well summed together. I mean, couldn't put it better. I mean, that is 64 blocks as life, really. But in chess, can you actually be kind of doing quite badly and then recover, or is it one of those that you make the wrong move and then the only way is down? Can you actually recover a bad situation?
You can, and that's the beauty of chess, that especially at my level, you can make minor mistakes, and it's about skill, it's about creativity and initiative to be able to turn that around. It's similar to football. You can go 1-0 down, but if you rally and if you persevere and think of different ways, and again adapt, you can overcome adversity, and that's, I think that's quite key, but that takes time, and that's the problem with chess, that you can't conquer chess overnight. It takes years and years.
Just on that question, sorry boys, just on that question, there's a question from Sana asking, are there any groups practicing blind chess in Manchester area, because she'd like to learn and practice playing the game? I guess it relates into the question here about, it's not hard, it's not an easy game, it's practice, right? Anything in Manchester or anything around there?
So again, I would do a local search for Manchester chess clubs, but I would encourage them to get in touch with the Braille Chess Association, and what they can do. They can assist in being able to signpost. They can give training materials, training resources, coaching facilities, all of those, various resources that are targeted for that type of player.
So, Chris, earlier you mentioned about adaptability. In your career and in your life, you've come across somebody who is not welcoming to somebody that's visually impaired, and how have you dealt with that and adapted around that?
So in the past 13 years, I've worked in higher education, which is basically universities. And my whole career has been about diversity and inclusion, and how academic staff are to empower not just disabled people, but all protective characteristics in their learning. And obviously that includes disabilities and visually impairment. And I've been able to use myself as a role model to be able to say to these people and demonstrate to them how they can adapt their teaching styles, their resources, to ensure that especially visually impaired people are included within their community, and that they can thrive in that environment. And it's been able to demonstrate to them that it's not just good for the visually impaired person, it's good for everybody, that's been my career for the past 13 years.
Okay, and just one more question just related to that. So as you're saying that you're dealing with diversity, inclusion, there's a lot of visually impaired people out there that are struggling to find work. How would you sort of try and approach like the work environments to sort of say, get more visually impaired people included in their companies?
Yeah, that if I had the answer to that, I'd be rich by now. But no, universities have to do more. And again, I've been championing this, and there are professional bodies who have been on this for a long time. Because university is not just about transition from what we call further education, which is sixth form college, but it's also the transition from graduation into the workforce. And there needs to be a lot more work done with careers, companies, to get them out into companies and get the companies, especially to take on more apprenticeships, to appreciate more voluntary roles where people can come in, and where visually impaired people especially can go in and trial and sample work, and if they succeed, then give them the opportunity, give them a 6 months probation, let them demonstrate that they can succeed, and give them. And personally, I've worked in a lot of universities where they've used me as a role model, as an example, to say, look, we've got this guy in our academic department, we're thriving, why can't you do so? And I've been used as a driving influence, to I want to say embarrass, other deans and professors, to say, why aren't you succeeding?
Thanks for that.
Sure. Just before, so there are a few comments, and then we'll go to the last question within the chat section, and then we will be wrapping up this live stream. So again, if there's any other questions, please do ask away. So there's a comment from Johan Grove. I met Chris in Poland in 2000. Johan Grove, Pretoria, South Africa. So I guess, have you found there, Chris Ross? Any words for Johan?
Yeah. Go on.
Any words for Johan?
Yeah, no, Johan is a lovely guy. I remember the South African team quite well. And again, those opportunities. So that tournament in Poland was called, it's called the Olympiad. So the Olympiad is the equivalent to the Olympics. So it's the chess version of the Olympics. And I've played both the Olympics for visually impaired chess players, but I've also played the Olympics, in the normal sighted world as well. But both formats are wonderful, because you see these people from around the world, and it unites. And I mean that in the true sense of the word. It unites different cultures, different people, you know, and you gather together and you've got one common enjoyment, goal. You can speak on one universal language, and just things like cultural change or anything like that. None of that matters, you know. And I've played people right across Asia and you know, people in these war-stricken countries, and for them, chess is a way out, and that they see a future. You know, they can go away from you know, what they're experiencing in their daily lives, and know that there's something out there which is good and positive.
Thank you so much for that, Chris. And last question from the comments. So we have an Ashley who says, "Good evening, guys. If I wish to join a chess game, is it possible?" They are from Zimbabwe. I guess an sighted person. So a fellow Zimbabwean there, Gerald, unseen, unheard even. But yeah, Chris Ross, could they join a chess game?
Well, there's lots and lots of different websites out there where you can just go on and play games again for free. You know, there's loads out there. I don't think it'd be fair for me to name one particular one, but a simple internet search will find that. And again, I talk about the community. You can literally log on to any of these websites and you could just play any random person from around the world. You can get chatting to them, you can get to know them. It doesn't matter if they're what we call strong at chess or good at chess or anything like that. You don't need to know their background. You don't need to know, you know, what they are or anything like that. All that matters is what they are as a chess player. And I think that's wonderful in the game, that whatever you are, whoever you are, you play as a chess player on a level playing field to everybody else.
Yeah. And so Chris, I believe you have written a book, right? So do you want to just let us know where people can buy your book and what's in your book and what they can expect, and then we'll finish it off.
Yeah, so to be absolutely honest, the chess book is targeted at current players of the game. So you do need to have quite an extensive knowledge of the game of chess to be able to fully appreciate the book. So the book is based of 80 games of mine, which I've spanned over the past 20 years, and it talks about the journey from being quite a, I want to say, naive, quite cocky 20-year-old chess player who first moved into the scene, and it's my progression then into the international scene, thriving and becoming a very strong player, getting my master title, and then, you know, solidifying that to where I am now. So it's a clear path for that journey. The best place you can buy it from Amazon, but it preferably it'd be best if you could buy it directly from the publisher. So the publisher is Steel City Press. So Steel City is like the nickname for Sheffield. Steel, S-T-E-E-L, Steel City Press. So again, a simple Google search. The book's called Blind Faith. So if you search for Blind Faith, Steel City Chess, it will come up quite quickly. What's probably best then is you can purchase the ebook version of the book. There are printed versions, obviously, if you so wish. But if there's any accessibility challenges with reading the ebook version, then simply drop the publisher an email, just say, can I have a better version? And we can send you out a version in PDF or MS Word or text, or any version that you feel, you know, is best for yourself.
Amazing.
Okay. So just one well, it's a crazy thing, Chris, but have you ever thought about trying to develop a chess game, you know, with the technology these days? And we've got a technical expert here that we play cricket with. Have you ever thought about that?
Probably not, because chess isn't resolved. You know, because of the variations, the infinite amount of games that you can play. You know, I was updating my database this morning, so I've got about 8 million games over the past 100 years or so that have been played professionally, you know, around the world. Because when you play tournaments now, they're published and that they go onto big international databases. You know, it's you cannot say the game is resolved. Every single game that you play is different in some way or other. So until it's solved, I don't see the point to inventing something. I enjoy what there is, and you know, why change something that's not broken?
Okay, that makes sense.
All right, I guess it's time to wrap up. One second. I think we have a few words from Betty.
Every hero has influences. Who inspired you the most along the way? And please don't say it was me, tempting as that might be.
We can ignore that question. Just 1 second. Sorry for these difficulties. Sorry about this, guys.
What's next for Chris Ross? Another book? Another medal? Or are you secretly plotting world domination, one pawn at a time?
We'll wrap up there. I think Betty's hallucinating, but thank you so much, Chris Ross and Had. I think for some reason Blind Freedom has some technical difficulties and he's left the session. But thank you so much, guys, for watching. And over to you, Had. Any last words? And then over to Chris Ross. Last words.
No, thank you very much, Chris. It's great to have had a good chat with you. And all the best for the future.
Cool. Well, thanks for having me, guys. And just what I would say, my last words for anybody listening, it doesn't matter about your skill level. You know, it's a game that everybody can enjoy, you know. So take the plunge, you know, have a go, speak to a club, look online. There's various ways you can get involved in somewhere. And it's a drug. It would really get you hooked. And, you know, it can only be for the benefit.
And thank you once again, Chris Ross.
Thanks.
And best of luck to any future games you might have. And thank you very much, everyone, for watching. And have a lovely day. Peace out.
Thanks. Bye.